Deepfake Show.
Hello.
Hello. How are you there?
I'm fine. I'm in Poland.
Oh, okay. Yes, I know. So, dear Secretary,
How are you?
I'm good. First of all, thank you for your support of our country in the fight against Russian aggression. So, President Zelensky delegated me to have this conversation with you, and I am very grateful to your country. What you are doing, because some Western countries, despite promises, abandoned us in a difficult moment, but the UK supported us, and the supply of weapons from you and NATO is vital for Ukraine. It's very important. Thank you very much.
Look, it's my pleasure. I've visited you 5 times over the last 5 years, so I'm determined to keep more and more supplies coming to you.
Well, I understand that you are probably fed up with this question, but I would like to ask, how else can the UK support us in this difficult time for you?
I can't say where I've been, but I've just been to look at more of our anti-air capacity to give you and making sure that we are getting it into the country as quickly as possible.
Oh, I mean, of course, we're currently discussing the idea of a defensive alliance with a country with a nuclear weapon, and it would be great if the UK became such a country. So how do you feel about the idea of union between our countries? And for example, it was wonderful to open official British training centers in our country.
Well, look, I think we are very keen to support you in any negotiations, and I know my understanding is President Zelensky is quite keen to see the United Kingdom alongside Ukraine in these negotiations because of the experience that we didn't have, but the bad experience of the Minsk agreement where just France and Germany were there. And I think there is a desire for the UK and the US. And I think all of those subjects, including a security alliance, I think is something to discuss with you on those negotiations.
I mean, the new union. So you know that Russia demands to leave ideas of NATO joining. Yeah. So what do you think?
I think the freedom to choose is a very important freedom for Ukraine, and Russia's other demands of Crimea and Donbass, to abandon all those, which I don't think Ukraine will, but if Russia was to be successful, then the question is, Russia is still a war criminal with sanctions around its neck and deserves to keep them there. So I think, look, we will stand by Ukraine in everything we can do. When it comes to discussions about security guarantees, I think we need to support you in what is the other parts of the agreement as well. What are the parts of the agreement that Russia will demand, and whether you think they are appropriate or whether they're acceptable. Because I don't think Russia should be able to demand anything other than going home.
Yeah, of course, I know that. I'm talking about the situation. Of course, one of the main issues that we are concerned about now is the open sky over Ukraine. So the question is it possible to somehow make the NATO ban on non-interference and do something to close the sky for Russian aircraft? I know that many times you were questioned about this, but it's really, really important now. And President Zelensky says about it yesterday in Congress.
So look, two things. I've just been looking at our new anti-air missile that we're sending you, which is better than Stinger. It'll work at night. It's a very, very fast missile, and it will help close the skies to Russian aircraft. Yes. I think what I would like to understand from Ukraine is, given that Russia has overwhelming amounts of artillery and missiles, and one of the few areas that Ukraine has a military ability to hit those missiles and artillery is using air and Bayraktar 2s, how would you deal with not being able to fly? Because a no-fly zone would be for both sides. Mr. Prime Minister, could I ask you a question, if I may?
Yes.
Your constitution currently has the application or the NATO obligation in it. I understand if President Zelensky, and I heard what he said about neutrality or not joining NATO, do you think the Ukrainian people would support that?
I really don't know now, because the situation after what Putin has done, it's pretty hard for us to change the constitution. So we have to see what we can do. Maybe it would be international agreement anyway, but it's a pretty hard situation. So we have to see, and of course it should be with our allies. And also the question I would like to ask: could British warships come to Black Sea and help us? I mean, such regions like Odessa.
Yeah. Right now, you mean in the war?
Yes, I mean right now.
So look, we are, as you know, we are not going to directly attack Russian ships or Russian airplanes. That's not at this stage. Will we be doing this? And as you know, that's a difficult thing for me to say. We will help you with a whole range of weapons that can deal with those, including potentially in the Black Sea. And if you remember last year we took HMS Defender past Crimea, and the Russians behaved illegally then. So look, I am considering more and more weapon systems to help in it. We will go into the Black Sea. I think we're due to go soon in the Black Sea. How close we go to Ukrainian waters, where the Russians currently have a blockade, I think we will be open to discussions about looking at that. I think the whole questions, Mr. Prime Minister, including the security dialogue or security guarantee, we are happy to look at all of them with you. So we're not going to rule anything out. I think what would be really good is to be able to discuss these with you. I have to speak to my Prime Minister and to be able to discuss it with you in President Zelensky's team, and we'd be very keen to find a way for one of our diplomats to engage with you on a permanent basis in the next few days and weeks.
No, I mean maybe on next stage we can fight together.
Yeah. Oh, look, on the next stage, I hope we would always be keen to be with you in Ukraine. But I mean,
yes,
if a peace deal is there, we're not going. If you make a deal that is right for you in Ukraine and what you are happy to deliver, Britain will look at all options to help you, including being in Ukraine. Right?
Yes.
I have troops in Poland. I have troops in Estonia. I have troops in Lithuania. I am happy to be with you in Ukraine. Obviously subject to, if you remember, we had 100 troops in orbital training team. We've had that since 2015, but we can look at all sorts of options.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's really important, and I also would like to request provide never NLAW anti-tank weapons, since those delivered earlier often fail, so that was problems for our country.
Ours have. I don't think ours have failed. I've got the details of ours. We've given you over 4,000. We've got more coming.
Yeah, right.
We're running out of our own. But I speak to Minister Reznikov or text him every day. So we have a problem in bureaucracy at the moment, which is we had 2 routes into the country, and the Ukrainian General Staff chose to push everything through one route. That has slowed down supplies into a part of your army that needs them.
Right. Yeah, I would like to ask you for my human opinion. How do you think other states, what do they think about our anti-NATO status? So what do you think? What about your colleague from the US? What do he really thinks about our status? So I know that it's pretty difficult um, to not try to join NATO. But
So look. I don't think we have any of our colleagues. Of course, we're sad, and Britain was one of those countries that wanted you to join NATO, right? I mean, there are 30 nations in NATO, and that is part of the problem. It's not easy to get every single one to say yes. And we have always wanted you to join NATO, which is why our training teams were there to help you over the last 5 years, try and get to the right stage. And you were there. So that is, a deep sense of regret. What we don't want to do is see you bullied into making decisions like recognizing Crimea as Russia. So I think, we deeply feel that you should be free, away from this Russian Nazi and bully.
we would like to continue the nuclear program in order to protect ourselves from Russia. It's a difficult question, but we think to start it.
Okay. But do you think, I think more than being neutral, Russia would really hate that.
For sure, we know this, of course, but it is one of the question that we are interested. But if you could help us in this regard, it would be really, really important.
Okay. Well, look, Mr. Prime Minister, on all those bigger questions, I think those are questions that I need to speak to my Prime Minister. The principle is we will support Ukraine as our friend in the choices you make. I am not in the difficult position of yourself or President Zelensky, who has to balance his people dealing with the murderous Russia in your country and all those challenges. He and you have a very difficult task, and I will support you as long as there is a legitimate Ukrainian government trying to live up to the values that you are fighting for already. So what you do with those freedoms is your freedom. Whether you want to be part of NATO or you don't want to be part of NATO, whether you want to explore new weapons, etc., that is all a matter for you to decide and for the West to in a sense, stand by you. And on things like the security guarantees, we would be very happy to look at that with you in whatever way we can. I understand the need for it. And we would like to be close to you in these negotiations for really two reasons. So we can provide our intelligence to you as much as possible to let you know what we think the Russians are thinking, and to just allow you all to be able to explore with us what you think is feasible.
Right. Dear Secretary, in the proposals for a peace treaty, Russia wants us to reduce the army as well as the number of weapons. In this case, can we count on secret supplies of weapons for us, for example, to store it in Poland?
So, Mr. Prime Minister, I understand what you're asking.
Right, yes. Or maybe you could filter some volunteers that are coming to our country to fight against Russians. Many volunteers. And there are some more frequent cases when the British discredit our country in the eyes of the world. For example, Jake Pridey from Cardiff recently gave an interview that we have terrible conditions and we are deceiving everyone, and he managed to convince 20 more volunteers to refuse the contracts. This information undermines the morale of Ukrainians.
Yeah, look, I'm not responsible for idiots that come and give interviews on media. I'm afraid I can try and stop them, but if people, there are also no doubt people who have come to help you, who are perfectly happy to stand and fight alongside you. So, look, if some idiot from Cardiff decides to give an interview, he's probably an idiot. I think it's quite hard for me to, in our free press, I can't control those people, but we're trying to discourage people coming who what we would call are Walter Mitties, people who are thrill seekers, who haven't really been in the army, probably failures rather than the army, but we'll see what we can do. Any proposals you talk about are something that the UK would discuss. On your acquisition of a nuclear, you think you want to explore a nuclear weapon, I think I would just be very careful about all of that. I think we are a signature to the Nuclear Proliferation Act. We can't be seen to be doing that. That is an entirely different issue. So I think you have to be very careful with that. I can say Slava Ukraini.
Slava Ukraini, and to say to our heroes, Vavan and Lexus, it's our Ukrainian heroes, they bombed airplanes from Russian side. Vavan and Lexus.
Okay. Slava Ukraini, Mr. Prime Minister.
Slava
Okay.
Vavanu and Lexus. Slava Vavan
Okay.
and Lexus.
Hang on. Slava Ukraini, thank you for talking to me.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
And
Bye.
yes.
Deepfake Show.